Hello and welcome to the newest edition of the Tie Up. I am Tie Fighter X1. Joining me tonight, as always, is Red Fox 15. How you doing, Red?
I'm doing great. So how are you doing?
I am doing better than yesterday. It's been an odd week for professional wrestling. We've seen wrestling shows in front of nobody. I saw a Twitter video of two wrestlers doing a match where they were practicing social distance, which was pretty funny. And we get the news of WrestleMania being canceled. What's your thoughts on this whole situation that we've got?
I mean, it's been incredibly unprecedented. People deciding that we still need to put on our shows regardless of the fact that we have live crowds or not. I really applaud that, but it has made for some very interesting television.
That it has. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the show. We'll cover Dark first, and then we'll go over the podcast, and then we'll go over Dynamite, and then some news towards the end. So AEW Dark this week, which was taped last week. What did you think of the card, and kind of just run us through it?
So the card was pretty good. We started off with Peter Avalon versus Colt Cabana. So Colt's getting his feet wet in AEW. He had his match with the librarian, and for me, Peter Avalon hasn't really been much of anything once he actually got into the ring. But in this match, him working with Colt Cabana, Colt really brought Avalon's game up, in my opinion. And it was a really entertaining match, and I think that would be worth a watch by itself.
So the great thing about Colt Cabana is I didn't get to see this match. I didn't get to watch Dark this week, but the great thing about Colt Cabana in any of his matches is he really knows how to work. Like he does a great job, whoever he's in the ring with, making them look good and also still making sure he gets his stuff in, even though it doesn't always like look like it should make sense. It always does make sense. So hats off to Colt Cabana for that.
Definitely. So the next match was TH2, or the Hybrid 2, versus Michael Nakazawa, or Nakazawa, as they said on his entrance, with Brandon Cutler. It's entertaining story. Brandon Cutler and Peter Avalon are having a race to whoever wins first, and some of the little videos coming out on YouTube about that are just freaking hilarious. So you got TH2, which God, I can't even remember names of the guy on the team. They're being
Yeah.
used so little. Um,
I haven't
they're
been
coming out.
overly
I mean,
impressed with those guys either.
um, they the fact that they changed names after making their first appearance kind of messed me up.
Their
Jack
wrestling
Evans
gear. Go
yeah,
ahead.
the wrestling gear's nice. It's Jack Evans and Helico.
Okay. And this is the like the neon colors, right?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the same guys? They remind me of High Voltage from old school WCW, uh, which was really a Hansmith tag team. But like their wrestling gear kind of reminds me of that, and I was just like, I'm not really digging this. But anyway, how was the match itself?
The match was okay. It's a kind of gimmicky match. Anytime you put in Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler, you're going to get a little bit of a gimmicky match. Nakazawa is really good with having oil with him for something. I think they call it Turkish oil wrestling for what he does. Makes for some hilarious spots. And you had the one thing that stood out to me was Jack Evans did a 630 to do his finish to get a pin. And while it looked fine, having had like 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, Sammy Guevara having done that 630 out of the ring,
Through the
anyone else
table.
trying it, yeah, anyone else trying to do it, it's just failure. But in that, Jack Evans got the pin. So,
So
um,
TH2 with a victory.
yep.
And then we
So we
went
move
to
on.
Yeah, so we went to Penelope Ford versus Rio, right? Penelope Ford with Kip
Yep.
Saban, correct?
Yes.
What stood
She
out
is super bad, Penelope Ford.
super bad? Yeah. What stood out from that match?
The thing that stood out to me the most is Penelope Ford actually got into the ring to perform a match. This is the first time I'd seen her wrestle in AEW, and technically the first time I've seen her wrestle. I mean, I've
But
seen her do a few spots outside the ring as her little manager type position, but
she's got a record though, right? I mean, that sounds like she's in trouble with the law. Um, but she has a win-loss record with AEW for, I want to say she was like 2-1 going into last week.
I think she may have one other match outside of this match,
But you're
but
right.
it seems like they're
I
just now starting to push her.
yeah, I haven't seen a lot of her, so I mean, it's definitely, she was on Dynamite this week too. We'll talk about it in just a minute, but from the match standpoint, it sounds like on paper it should be a good match. Rio and the first AEW Women's Champion versus Penelope Ford. How was the actual physical match?
It was all right. The problem is everything felt like they were going 3/4 speed, so some of the things kind of didn't flow properly, so they didn't look real per se. Um, it's easy to get you sucked in with some high action moves. Well, they had the high action moves, but they weren't going as fast as they were supposed to. So it kind of threw the match off for me. But being her first match that I saw in AEW, I gave her a lot of pass for being green in the company. But she's also working with Rio, who putting her full weight behind a maneuver is like getting hit by a feather. So
Yeah,
um, maybe not the best. Um, I did like how it finished. It finished with a fisherman suplex, and then she had this really great bridge where she got onto her toes to just really get the pin,
she
and it just
being who?
looked great. Oh, sorry, she being Penelope Ford. Yeah, I'm really focusing on her because it's odd to me. I've seen Rio wrestle a lot,
Right.
but this is my first time seeing Penelope, so I was really infatuated with the match. But she's got a little bit to go, but I think she's got a lot of upside.
So
She being
shades
Penelope Ford.
of the late great Kurt Hennig with the fisherman suplex. Not quite that good.
I mean, no. I would actually say it looked better
Yeah. Awesome.
because it's a thinner body,
Right.
and you could just really see where the angles are for the pin. So I mean, not to take away from Kurt Hennig, but yeah, it looked better.
Awesome. I have to look at that. So then after that, we had Christopher Daniels feuding with the Dark Order like he has been for the past couple of months. He faced off with Stu Grayson. What kind of matchup did we see there?
That was a good brawl type match. I'd recommend going back and watching that, if nothing for one spot where Stu Grayson is jumping over the top rope to get to attack Christopher Daniels on the floor, and he just goes, "This is fun," and just that alone.
I think your mic cut out just for a second.
So Daniels gets the win, and Dark Order attaches after the match.
And then so SCU and Colt came in for the save after that. Is that what happened?
Yep, that's the finish.
And that was the end of Dark, correct?
Yep,
And then
Dark is.
so overall, how do you feel about that episode of Dark?
I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of them, but I feel like that was one of the better ones I watched.
Awesome. And so let's move on. We'll talk about the podcast real quick. We had Billy Gunn on the show. Not this show. AEW Unrestricted. Maybe we'll get Billy Gunn on our show one day. That'd be pretty neat. So yeah, it was with Billy Gunn this week. How was the listen? I tried to listen to it today. I tried to put it on the background, but I actually wanted to watch the video. And TNT actually delays, like the podcast comes out on, like I've seen it on radio.com. It's already available there, but it's not available everywhere yet. It's not even available on the TNT website. So it's just like,
I've been strictly listening to the audio. Billy Gunn's interaction with Aubrey Edwards is wonderful. They have a great chemistry together, so that was entertaining by itself. There wasn't a whole lot of build up into what really goes on in the AEW. It was just here's Billy Gunn, here's what we had about him. It's basically like reading his wiki page. But the one thing that was more AEW related was they got into talking about him working with Austin Gunn, his son, who I had a chance today to go back and watch one of his matches with Billy Gunn. It's really great, the Gun Club. So he's really excited about that, and I could imagine getting to work with your son in something you've been doing for 30 years, and him actually being good at it. He actually has a lot of charisma, kind of like the Road Dogg did. So it makes for a very similar tag team, which is very awesome.
Nice. It's not like Scott Hall's son. Have you ever watched Scott Hall's son's matches?
I have not.
Not very good in the ring. The apple fell a long way from the tree with that one. Because Scott Hall was inside of the ring. I know he had his personal demons outside the ring that hindered him as far as his in-ring talent. But inside of the ring, like Scott Hall could really work, and his son did not get that from him, unfortunately. But I mean, it's like everything, The more he does it, the better he'll get. I watched it in the very beginning of his career, so hopefully he's improved, and maybe we should start watching some indie matches from some of these up and coming guys, or even some of the other matches. Like I know Warlord, he was in IWC. I just found that out right before we went live. I was watching a few minutes of his farewell, so maybe that'd be cool segment to go into where we look at some of these guys as old matches.
Yeah, I was looking at it. Austin Gunn with his match on AEW Dark in I think it was South Haven, Mississippi. That was his 21st professional match.
Nice. So he's still very new to the business.
Yes.
It's awesome.
But he is signed with AEW, and hopefully we'll start seeing him more on the live show on Wednesday nights.
All right. So speaking of live shows on Wednesday nights, I can't speak tonight. Let's move on to Dynamite. So this was weird, right? We open the show with just Cody standing in the ring by himself. No lights except a spotlight on him in the ring. What did he have to say?
He had to say that, basically we as a people have to stick together and not give up on her routines, even if, things are drastically different right now.
Yeah, it was a very strong promo, and it was like he reminds me so much of his dad when he speaks. But he really knows how to captivate in promos as well. Like that's something his dad did so well. And Dustin's pretty good at it, but I feel like Cody got more of that from his dad than Dustin did.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to me because I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this, and this is the speech of how we as a nation have to do this. And next thing I know, we're talking about getting ready for Blood and Guts, and I'm like, wait. When did we transition?
Right. Yeah. It was a beautiful segue. And so with Blood and Guts, he was talking about how the different members of the elite needed to be the best that they could be, right? So anything that stood out from that standpoint for you?
Oh, just how well it was, just having the three of them in the ring talking about what they needed to do, and the lack of color anywhere except for them. There was nothing to really hold your attention except for them.
Yeah.
It put a lot more focus on them, and in my opinion, probably put a lot more pressure on them, and I think they held up very nicely.
It was a very real feeling promo. Sometimes you get caught up in the shows and you forget these are real people, but like this felt like somebody, like he was addressing the nation. It felt very official to hear from Cody the way that he was speaking. And then they did a really cool shot where Hangman Page came out because so just to catch you up, Omega came out, Matt Jackson came out. Nick Jackson's not able to travel due to his injury from the garage door. Cody was also talking about how Page just needed to be the guy that was the middleman and wants to stand out from the rest of the elite. That's what's going to be the difference maker in the match. And Matt Jackson asked if Hangman was going to have their back, both tonight on the show and at Blood and Guts. And Hangman Page came out on the ramp drinking whiskey, because he's only drinking whiskey now. And he he held up his glass, kind of like saying okay. But there was a shot that they shot from the tunnel, and it had Hangman on the stage, and just the spotlights, and you could see the ring, but there's no color at all. I thought that was a really interesting shot.
Oh yeah.
So then at the end of the promo, they said, well, let's add some color. So we got some, the original Dynamite pyro, and the lights came on, and pyro went off, and the screens lit up. What did you think? Like that to me was so visually different. It was very strong.
It was very strong, and I was much more aware of all the things that happen in a ring entrance now with this episode, going from nothing to the entrance. I mean, even being at the event, lights are still going, things are on the screen. So when the show starts, it's not as drastic of a difference as this was. So it really caught my attention. The cutting in of Jim Ross, where with this promo was so good, I completely forgot we had ring announcers.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's
it was a little bit of a shock to the system.
Mine too. I was like, oh, right, this is a wrestling show. We're starting. And can I just say, tonight's commentary with Jim Ross, Taz, and Excalibur was phenomenal. And Taz is so good at talking when he's supposed to, and really giving the information you need. I thought they did an excellent job tonight with that 3-man team, because we saw Tony was at ringside most of the night doing what?
Yeah. Tony got some a lot of TV time tonight. It was really entertaining. Tony Schiavone has his own podcast with my local hero, Conrad Thompson. And you get to know the real Tony Schiavone, not the guy you saw in WCW for 20 years or whatever. And tonight, I felt like we saw a little more of the actual Tony Schiavone than we do the professional ring announcer, and that's always fun. The announcers in general felt a lot more relaxed, almost like they were practicing for a show instead of actually doing a show.
Yeah, and a lot of the matches seemed that way as well.
Yeah.
It was a completely different atmosphere for them, which it was almost like a night off for them, but nobody actually, delivered like it was a night off. I thought from top to bottom, this card was extremely well done, and nobody took it easy just because there was nobody in the crowd.
Oh yeah.
So
I did enjoy the fact that they did present a crowd, though.
Right.
The competition has just had, basically the ring announcers and the people in the booth, and that's it. AEW actually had their talent come out to fill some of the ringside seats.
Yeah, and it looked like you had the good guys on one side, the bad guys on the other, and they're hooting and hollering throughout the whole show, going off on each other, going off on the action. But I mean, like you said, the other show, I watched one. They went to a commercial break, and as they came back, everybody was getting back in the ring. Like, oh, okay, you're seriously not even wrestling. Like, while you're on commercial, it's obvious like that you guys are just half-assing this, and AEW did not go that route. So after the opening, we saw Tony interview MJF sitting at ringside with Warlow and Sean Spears.
Yes.
What did MJF have to be getting into tonight?
God, MJF, this is the greatest heel I've seen in professional wrestling. Anytime he gets a microphone, it's just amazing. Just sit and just soak it in. So I don't even God, even after watching this recently, I don't specifically recall what all he talked about.
So he started
But
the interview off with the fact that he didn't have to wrestle. He didn't need
yes,
the money to wrestle. So he wasn't going to. He was actually going to just sit at ringside and get in with some real action. Which then Tony's like, "Wait, you guys are gambling?" Like, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa! What are you trying to say here? That's not what I said." And then he pulls the mic down and whispers, "Hey, you want to get in on this?" It was
I love it.
it was
You want to get
really
on this, old
good.
man?
Uh, and then we had Brandy Rhodes.
Oh no, wait, you're skipping over the best part.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So right after that, you have Tony pulling the microphone away again, saying, all right, back to you guys in the booth, and then leans over towards Spears and says, how much are we working with here?
I missed that completely.
Yeah. Tony, that's the part where I'm getting to the Tony that's actual Tony instead of just the announcer Tony. Tony would have some fun with that.
Nice.
It was really funny.
All right, so then you go ahead. What happened? What happened after that?
So after we cut away from the interviewing MJF being ringside, we go to Brandy Rhodes, who is doing ring announcing tonight because current ring announcer is not available. I don't know if you know this, but there's a little bit of a pandemic going on. People are not supposed to be gathering together and all this good stuff.
Right.
So Brandy's taking over ring announcement. So they do her lower third with her name on it, and I love it because the top portion of her lower third said she would never ring announce again. There she is with her smiling face, and I gotta say, Brandy does a great job anytime
Yes.
she's in front of the camera. She's amazing. I happened to catch a great video. I think it's on her Instagram where she's doing an interview for AEW, and Dustin interrupts to let her know that she'll be doing the ring announcement. And highly recommend if you can go find that, go watch that.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
So we went into our first match. It was Lucha Brothers versus Best Friends. What'd you think of the match?
I thought it was a little pitting these guys against each other, seeing as they just built their feud with Death Triangle versus, the Best Friends with Orange Cassidy. But here we are, just 1 week later.
Yep.
Lucha Brothers.
And speaking of Orange Cassidy, he joined the commentary team for some exciting exchange during this match. I think he was sleeping at one point. He looked very comfortable. Legs up on the desk and, just hanging out.
I was really impressed with the amount of time he took to put his headset on. Constantly adjusting it, wanted to get it just right to make sure he get the best audio quality out of it.
And then
it was great.
Not a single word was spoken.
Not even heavy breathing.
Nope. I thought the match, though, itself was really good, and it set the pace for the rest of the show. So if you came into watching this show like, man, this isn't going to be a good show, there's no crowd, you completely didn't feel that as soon as the bell rang for this match, in my opinion.
Yeah, this cleared up any doubt whether these guys are professionals or not. They went out there with literally just their coworkers watching and put on a show like they were in a 10,000 seated crowd. And it was a great match, but for the fact that it's Best Friends who I've always gotten good work out of, and Lucha Brothers that I've always gotten good work out of, and I would even say with some of their work with the Young Bucks, that's exceptional work. It made it really hard for what would be a good standard TV match to me to be acceptable when I'm so used to some of the performance they put on.
Okay.
So after lowering my expectations, because it's just how it's like the ladder match they did with the Young Bucks, that just raised my expectations anytime they get in the ring.
Right.
And I probably shouldn't allow that, but I did, and it kind of messed up my expectations for this match. I don't know why I was expecting more, but for what I got, it exceeded what I should have got, in my opinion.
I think wrestling style creep is kind of like the same as lifestyle creep. You get used to seeing a certain entertainment factor or performance level from a individual or a team, and then you're like, okay, well, I want that all the time. which you're not going to get because even if they wrestle the same people, the chemistry could be off one night, or if it's a new person that they might have never worked before and they have to feel each other out. So yeah, you do got to keep that in mind when you're looking at some of these matches, and especially like I said, this environment was completely different. Maybe we should have removed the crowd from this set too. That would have been pretty funny. Anything in the actual match that stood out to you? I had a few that I took down.
Like I said, I expected so much more, and I feel bad about actually saying this out loud that nothing really stood out to me. It was just the great
You're
performance
crazy.
I've become accustomed to see. It's just the stuff I expect to see now, so nothing stands out. It's not that it wasn't entertaining. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of the better matches on the card. I'd probably say the second best match, but I don't know.
So
Nothing
a few
was
few
stand
things that
out.
I liked was right after the hot tag. Chuck Taylor got the hot tag. He came in, he cleared the ring, and then they went for the best friend hug. They stopped and they just kind of gave each other elbow dabs instead because what's going on. But as soon as they
Social
did
distancing.
that, yeah, social distancing. As soon as they did that, they got super kicked for their trouble by the Lucha Brothers. Um, but then the Lucha Brothers went to the outside to deal with Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy comes off, or well, the Lucha best friends push the Lucha Brothers off the stage, and then set him up in place for Orange Cassidy to come off the stage with a hands in pocket plancha. Pocket plancha. I'm gonna start calling it the pocket plancha.
That sounds great.
Okay, so he came off with the pocket plancha, and so this is where you kind of lost me a little bit. I get that the referees have leniency in when they're going to call for a disqualification. This to me was legit a disqualification. There was no reason for Orange Cassidy to touch either one of the Lucha Brothers, and it made no sense storyline wise, other than the fact that they're feuding. But it's not like one of them hit him first and then he just retaliated. Like, this was straight up, okay, I'm going to come and jump on you in front of the ref, and nothing's going to happen. I didn't like that.
Are you sure it was in front of the ref? He may have been busy addressing the crowd.
Yeah, no, it was definitely in front of the ref this time. Because the ref was standing there counting them out, counting out the Lucha Brothers, counting out the best friends. So I didn't like that. I thought it took away from the match more than it added to the match, especially since there was no crowd to pop. If there was a crowd there, that might have been a good spot to get a pop out of the crowd. But since there wasn't, it just kind of fell flat. And I feel like it should have been a disqualification.
Fair enough.
Other than that, there was this awesome attempt at a sunset flip, and it was stopped, but then there was a super kick that finished the rotation on the sunset flip. That was really cool. And I thought the Lucha Brothers picking up the wind. They said after the match that the Lucha Brothers are currently unranked and that Best Friends are the number 4 team. And in my opinion, the Lucha Brothers have been probably the second best team in AEW since we've started this tag team division, underneath maybe the third. But underneath, you have, Paige and Omega. Then you have the Young Bucks. The Lucha Brothers have to be right there at 3. Who would you argue that would go there instead?
I'd have to look at their 2020 record, but yeah, they're one of the better matches. I mean, not better matches, better tag. See, you done giving me the word issue.
Good.
So they're one
Means
of
it
the
left
better.
me.
They're one of the better tag going right now. I'm not paying a lot of attention to the rankings because God, that can change drastically week from week with just a win. But yeah, I could see that. God, even this victory over Best Friends this week could launch him up to third place pretty easily.
That is true. After the match, Chuck Taylor was very upset because his tag team partner got kicked in the dick. That's what he
Yes.
said. He used those exact words, which I thought was hilarious. That we heard somebody say "kicked in the dick" on national television.
Yes.
Um, so Chuck Taylor, he threw out the challenge. Next week we're gonna have a parking lot brawl. I think Chuck Taylor's super talented. I just feel like he's not very comfortable in the role he's doing right now. He looks very uncomfortable during the promos, during his actual matches. I just he doesn't seem all in, and I think I said that before. You know, I don't see it with him.
I He looks fine to me. So,
Fair enough. Anything else you want to talk about as far as that match goes?
uh, another Tony Schiavone moment on camera. Post interview,
Yeah,
get himself a lot of that Mean Gene slot.
I keep calling for it, and I think if anything, this was the reason why I'm right. Like if you watch this show tonight or when it aired last Wednesday, you would say, okay, he's really good in this role, and the commentary team's killing it. Yeah, let's continue to do that. So,
My only problem is I really miss the "That's right, Excalibur."
oh geez,
That's some of the greatest commentary.
get out of here.
I mean, you could hear him just kind of waking up from the nodding off and following with "That's right, Excalibur," and it's perfect.
So we next go into a four-way match between Penelope Ford with Kip Saban, Kip Saban, um, Rio, Sheeta, and Statlander. Why don't you take this match?
So you basically have had Hikaru Shida and Chris Statler was kind of working together in a tag team previously. And then on our dark match, we had Penelope Ford versus Rio, so they kind of worked together. So we kind of just said, hey, let's just bunch them all together into a match and see how that goes. And I've come to the conclusion that anytime you put Chris Statlander in there, something's going to go wrong. Um, I don't know what it is. Like when she first started with AEW, things looked fine, but she's just been on a streak lately where there's just like a major bot she's involved with match after match after match. And this match was no exception. The only standout moments really from this were Kip Sabian is a great heel manager and how he saves Penelope Ford all the time. It may have been a little excessive, but because it's still new and fresh to me, I'm enjoying it. And he took a few shots from the ladies, and that was entertaining.
I think he
Statlander.
is very good as far as keeping himself involved in the match. Um, to me, one of the best things about managers, if you're a good manager, you're only seen when you're supposed to be seen. And he was taking away from some of the match at points.
Yes.
Um, so that's strike number one for me. He also is doing it blatantly in front of the ref, which is both his fault and Penelope's fault as well. If it calls for a spot for him to get involved in the action, then if he's tripping somebody, like she needs to stop and get in front of the ref or something, and just kind of distract the ref long enough for Kip to do it so the ref doesn't see it. Why wasn't he thrown out from ringside?
It's
Like
a it's a fatal four way. I mean, there's no disqualification in a fatal four way.
what? Where
Yeah,
did
there's no
this rules come
disqualification
from?
here. From when you make stuff up because you're doing a match.
I did think that Penelope Ford looked a lot better than she usually looks. I think she turned up the volume a little bit, and she did a sweet reverse Rana onto Statlander, which was amazing. It was a front flip into the ropes, bounced back, jumped up, landed on her shoulders, reverse Rana.
Yeah,
That looked pretty good, and then Sheeta looked good as usual as well. I've been really impressed with Sheeta.
she is very good. Um, you would think she's been doing this for 15, 20, 30 years even. I mean, she just goes out there and she performs night after night. I'm having trouble finding some bad spots with her. Um, Statlander, she's progressively almost getting worse, in my opinion. Like Penelope Ford went off the top rope to do her Karana. She completely missed the landing on Statlander, but Statlander flipped forward anyways. So it's just like she grazed her with a leg, and then all of a sudden Statlander's
They
front
were
flipping.
social distancing.
Oh yeah, that's right. So this being Penelope Ford's like third match in AEW altogether, Kip Sabian in this manager role is much better in my opinion than actually having to watch him wrestle. I am just
Ouch.
not a fan of in-ring work.
Um, Ouch. So we did see Sheeta get the victory on Ford for the win. After the match, another Tony spot. He went and talked to Colt Cabana. What did Colt Cabana have to say?
Colt Cabana is 2-0 in AEW, and he is very proud of being 2-0. He did mention how good Penelope Ford's looking. Kind of makes me feel like we're pushing Penelope Ford just a little bit. And mentioned how Kip Sabian isn't the greatest thing to have ringside. And Kip took a little exception to that.
Yeah. So Kip came over, got in Colt's face, and Colt completely made Kip look like a bitch at this point. Kind of pushed Kip, slapped him in the face, and Kip did nothing but go back over to Penelope Ford and hightail it back to the back. I thought that was horrible. I mean, I get it puts Colt over, but at the same time, it made Kip look like he was just a little bitch. And I mean, now if Kip beats Colt in the ring, now Colt just lost to the guy that he just completely bitched out at ringside.
Kip Sabian made a very valid point that he had to attend to Penelope Ford, otherwise he would have beat Colt Cabana's ass.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'm all for the coward heel, but
yeah, that felt very one.
It felt very. You still need to man up a little bit, like at least get into his face and have people, get in between you guys, and then you go back to Penelope Ford. He literally gets slapped in the face. He was like, "Oh my God, Penelope, let's get out of here."
I don't know. It felt proper for Kip Sabian to me.
Yeah, I didn't like it one bit, but I get what they're doing. I don't have to like it. So after that,
guess what we have?
We have a commercial, actually.
What follows the commercial?
Tony Schiavone in an interview role. He was talking with Jon Moxley, who still isn't cleared to enter the building.
He actually made it to the building this time, though.
Yeah,
progress.
He showed up to the parking lot. Just wasn't allowed in. Said that he was going to continue to be in the Inner Circle's blind spot, though. And then got in the car very awkwardly. And
this is the most awkward I have ever seen anyone get into a car. Like, he got onto his knees in the driver's seat and like launched himself over the center console and then rotated. It was weird, but then again, that is a low to the ground car with not a lot of room.
So. Yeah. So if you didn't watch and you're just kind of going off what we're saying, so Moxley is getting inside of a Ford GT, and Moxley is 6'3" probably. He's tall. Yeah. 6'3". He's a big guy. He's muscled. And he like dives headfirst into this Ford GT. And it was like, I don't know if he like put his leg in and then like his leg was going to be under him, so he had to like rotate, and it was so awkward.
Yeah.
And then he slams the door and drives off really fast, which was even more funny because it was like, to me, it was almost like he like knew how awkward he looked, so he's like, "Oh, let me hurry up and get out of here."
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of back in WCW watching Bill Goldberg get into a Dodge Viper. There's just no great way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know why he would want that. Like, I sell the car and get a truck, Mox. All right. What happened after that?
So after the interview, we go back to the ring and we have a tag team match. We have Butcher and the Blade versus Jurassic Express, but this is Jurassic Express without Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt wasn't even at ringside.
Yeah, so it looks like they asked him to stay home. If he's sick, I hope you're feeling better, Stunt. But you know, they did try to limit. They had some wrestlers there for the crowd members, but it was obvious they were limiting some of them as well.
Right, and they were rotating them even.
Right. So very, very good match. We just saw this type of match last week too, right? Last week we saw Luchasaurus getting the heat. This week Jungle Boy took the heat. And can I say that not enough people use the kitchen sink? Like, that's such a good move, and you don't see a lot of people doing it. And do you know what I mean when I say kitchen sink?
No, I do not.
So it's when you have your opponent running at you and you use your knee to their midsection and they end up flipping over you. The Butcher did it extremely well and effectively against Jungle Boy tonight, and it just reminded me that a lot more people should be using that. It's a good offensive maneuver that usually your opponent doesn't see coming. So maybe do a kitchen sink today. I also like that Jungle Boy. So everybody started using the standing moonsault for a while. So they would get right next to somebody and just do a moonsault. It's very impressive. But much like everything in pro wrestling, when you start seeing too much of it, it kind of loses the specialness of it, and you're just doing what everybody else is doing. Nobody even pays attention to it anymore. Jungle Boy has changed that up, and he is doing a senton. So he stands like he's going to do a moonsault and then front flips while his motion is going backwards and hits a senton. I thought that was cool. Nice to see somebody changing something instead of copying everybody else.
Yeah, I think they called that an imploding senton.
Imploding, that's a cool name.
It is. But, for a cool move like that, it deserves a cool name.
Yeah. So a couple other things I saw that was cool. Jungle Boy went for a slingshot to the outside of the ring, and Butcher and the Blade caught him, and they almost didn't catch him. They almost hit the floor, but they caught him, and then they did a power slam into the guardrail. And then at this point, you had the announcers point out something really cool, which shows you why you have announcers and not just watching it. They pointed out the fact that everything that was being done tonight, all of the chops, being slammed in the guardrail, you could really hear it better because there was no crowd. Now, this does a few things. It does, A, it shows that, hey, there is realism in professional wrestling. And B, it says, hey, if you're not noticing how this sounds, listen for it. So it makes it that much better.
The whole crowd noise thing was a little twofold to me. Yes, you get to hear the effects of these moves better, and you realize that is great physical contact. They're not faking a knife edge chop. They're literally smacking you as hard as you can on your chest.
Right.
But on the other half, you can almost clearly hear conversations happening inside the ring, conversations happening ringside. MJF probably had more audio out of this show than, only with the exception of JR and Taz. I mean, you heard him all night long.
Yeah, I was gonna address that here in a little bit. Did you see Luchasaurus almost die? Or not Luchasaurus? Did you see Jungle Boy almost die.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they were going for, but Jungle Boy got flipped up in the air. I think Butcher was supposed to catch him into some kind of move. Butcher mistimed it. And luckily, he was close enough to the ropes that where Jungle Boy could hold on to the ropes, because if he would have missed the ropes, that would have been a bad splat.
Yeah.
Glad he's okay after that, and glad he didn't die. Jurassic Express did get the victory after a distraction from MJF. What do you think that was about?
You know, MJF is heavily invested in Butcher and Blade. Maybe he just felt like he needed to be involved, giving some orders, leading things. They weren't doing it the right way, in his opinion, and he felt the need to vocalize that.
And then, so I saw on Twitter, maybe MJF bet on Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. That looked like the face of somebody who may have lost some money on that match. So after that, we went to a Dark Order promo in the middle of the ring with Evil Uno. You want to take this?
So Evil Uno and Stu Grayson are in the middle of the ring. Evil Uno again for like 3 months now, telling us the Exalted One is coming. Over and over again. And over again. And one more time, if that wasn't enough, until he was interrupted by Christopher Daniels. I was a little thrown off by the fact that Uno wanted us to focus on his eyes. Yet when it was time for Daniels to interrupt him, he looked over towards Daniels before Daniels actually said anything.
Right.
And that just kind of pulled me out of the moment a little bit.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have Daniels going on about how Uno's lying about the Exalted One, and there probably isn't an Exalted One at all. And then we get Daniels interrupted by the Exalted One in a promo video, which was a really great video.
Yeah, you like the lead up for the video?
Yeah, I like the video. I like the voice altering and how we gradually just toned that down as he went on in his promo until we got to the point where it's just him talking in his normal voice,
And
which made me realize I wasn't 100% sure what his normal voice was. It'd been
right.
so long since I talked.
And he was also wearing it almost looked like a Christopher Daniels style ring robe as well, with the hood on it and everything. So it kind of looked a little weird at first, but he took it off. And why don't you tell the world who the Exalted One is?
So for anyone who wasn't watching the show that we are covering, I ask you first, why? And secondly, I tell you the
Hey,
Exalted
wait,
One.
wait. Look, a lot of people had a lot of plans that night. They were going to these big parties, and no,
That's right. Wednesday night has some great stuff going on. I completely forgot. My bad. The Exalted One is Brody Lee.
Great parties of 9 or less people, by the way.
Yes.
Brody Lee is the Exalted One, and he was in the ring after the promo. And Christopher Daniels had a target on his face. Brody Lee went straight after him. We saw no Scorpio Sky. So, you know, we just talked about Marco Stunt wasn't there. Scorpio Sky also wasn't there with SCU. It was just Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. And you saw a beatdown of those two by Brody Lee and the other two members, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, and I think they had the other guys in there too, right?
No, that
No?
would exceed their 10-person limit.
What did you think of the lead up for months of the Exalted One? What did you think of the Exalted One finally making his debut?
I have a hard time with some of the time that it takes for a story. Um, I think we focused so heavy on the Exalted One is coming that the fact that it took 3 months seemed a little excessive. But I'm glad it's finally here. I don't know about using the first show that you know you're not going to have a crowd on as the point to do it, but it worked.
So would you have
It
pushed it
was
back?
I don't think it would have hurt to push it back.
But we don't
Um,
even know how long this is going to be
we've
either,
gone
right?
3 months already.
Right, but this could be another month of
Right, right. I agree. There's no good way without hindsight to say whether it was a mistake or not. So
right.
I'm okay with them pulling it off now.
And what did you think of the beatdown? Did you think it made its mark?
Oh yeah, yeah. The beatdown was good. I thought it was a little weird. He grabbed Christopher Daniels. Kind of looked like he was about to go for his sister Abigail, and remembered, oh, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I thought too. It looked like he was going for the Sister Abigail, and then spun him out into a clothesline. I think it was. It was something,
Yeah.
maybe a forearm. I don't. It was a little weak, in my opinion, for a finishing
And
move.
we're in the promotion where the former AEW champion used a back elbow, so I, you're
He's
not
fine
allowed to
with
call
it.
it
All
weak.
right, so it's and nobody's ever kicked out of it.
That's
Just
true.
I'm just telling you, you don't know anything about that back elbow. You shut your mouth.
So wait, before we go on, what do you think about the Exalted One's ring gear? I mean, he took
uh,
off the ring robe to reveal his
it looked.
attire,
Do
and
you remember Midian from the old WWF days? He did some stuff with Undertaker, and
mhm,
it looked very Midianish. It was
yeah,
very odd. I thought the whole thing was kind of super flat, especially since you didn't have a crowd as well. Um, it just they didn't look as dominating as they should. It goes back to the Dark Order is great when they are speaking or they're doing a video package. Anything in the ring that the Dark Order doesn't really get over the way it should.
and I blame that entirely on Evil Uno. After watching Stu Grayson on Dark and seeing what he does on his own and how good of a wrestler he is on his own, it made me realize he's not the weak person in that tag team.
No. So afterwards, we got a promo with Jake the Snake.
Oh,
And
who was there with Jake?
uh, Lance Archer, right?
Who else?
Oh. Um, Tony Schiavone.
Yes,
Oh,
we're gonna make a
okay.
night of this. Tony Schiavone has had an amazing amount of TV time.
So what'd you think of the interview with Jake the Snake first?
Okay, I loved that Tony Schiavone asked Lance Archer a question, and he reached the mic towards Lance, and Jake pulled it away. That was just a little bit of psychology that may get by some people,
Yes.
but just God, Jake is so great with psychology.
We talked about the
And
little things, and that added a
yes,
lot to that promo.
so just listening to Jake, I could do this all day. Give me 30 minutes of Jake just talking about what he plans on doing. And he could just do 30 minutes of what he plans on doing, and it not be anything he plans on doing, but he's going to convince you that's what he's going to do.
I'm gonna
I
see
love
if
listening to
Jake
Jake
wants
talk.
to do a podcast with me.
I would listen. I would pay money to listen to that.
Another great interview from Jake Roberts talking about Lance Archer, putting Lance Archer over. And then
I
we
mean,
go ahead.
listening to Jake talk about it, Lance is the greatest thing to happen to professional wrestling.
Right. And this week, so I made it known last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was when we first saw Lance Archer was the guy that was going to be with, it was last week, with Jake the Snake, that I wasn't a fan of the choice. This week, just he didn't say anything, he didn't do anything. Just he stood there with his hair braided and dyed at the tips, or the whole thing was dyed, I don't remember. But he
Like,
looked more of the part
okay,
that Jake the
I
Snake
want to
should
take
have
a
been
moment
doing.
to talk about his hair.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Lance Archer's hair is just so interesting to me because, like, he has a braid in it, but like one of the braids is red and the rest is his natural hair color.
Right.
And that's just an interesting thing. And I hate to say this, I have two girls, so braiding hair is something I get to do now. And I'm just looking at that going, how the hell did they decide this is the strands of hair we're gonna dye, and then we're gonna make sure we braid this properly. I just have such respect for whoever's doing his hair. I am thoroughly impressed with this guy's hair.
What'd you think of the promo they showed for Lance Archer after? So just to kind of set the scene for you, if you didn't get to watch, there was it looks like a makeshift ring in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere. And on the canvas, what did it say? It said kill everyone?
I think it says everyone dies.
Everyone dies. That's correct. And it's this makeshift ring, very small ring, and a ton of people around it. They take
They were not
turns.
practicing social distancing.
They were not. So you have Lance Archer in the middle of it, and people were coming in trying to take Lance Archer down. It looked very like the old Carney days where they would have like, hey, survive 5 minutes with this guy and you win $500. They even had like the little ring announcer guy. So it had that kind of vibe to it. And he was just destroying anybody who came in the ring. What'd you think of the production and that style? It was something that you don't usually see. To me, it was very Walking Deadish. Just the way it was shot. It was really well done, but like you don't see that in wrestling promotions. You usually see hype videos of, hey, look at them do this move. Hey, look at them do this move. Hey, here's them in the gym. Hey, here's them walking down a hallway. You don't see stuff like this. What'd you think?
This was a great buildup of a monster. This guy, they're building up to be the Braun Strowman of AEW, in my opinion. So much so that I think Braun Strowman even took notice. And this video just did a perfect job of showing how he can dominate on his own. They nicknamed him Murder Hawk. It looks like the perfect name for him.
Yeah, that was a really
And
cool
then,
nickname.
God, I love him just having Jake there as just someone to watch all the carnage and just enjoy when
Yeah,
it's time to
he's
walk
just
off. Yep, it was great.
I thought it was very well done. Which is funny that you mentioned you thought it was great because we just talked about enhancement talent not too long ago, and here we had a ring full of enhancement talent. You were against it a few weeks ago. You thought it was done well in this situation.
Yeah, I don't think it should be a part of like the actual live television event. But using it for vignettes like this, it's perfectly fine. It makes it so he's not destroying any of the current talent, so we still have those matches to look forward to. We don't say, "Oh, well, we just saw that in the vignette, so we don't really care what happens in the match because we've seen it before." So this saves your talent to give you some more matches to deal with while still showing what this guy's capable
I disagree. AEW, don't forget, I
of.
signed up for the Search for Spears. You can also use that same video for my audition for coming in to being the first person that the Murder Hawk murders on AEW TV. Jacksonville's just a couple of hours. You don't have to pay for a flight. I can drive over there. Look, let's book it. He can pay me. He can pay me. Or you can pay me. You know.
I think you're good getting paid by him or AEW.
Yeah,
You really care,
somebody pay me. All right. All right. So then it was time for our main event of the evening. We had the inner circle, and this was going to be for whoever gets the advantage going into Blood and Guts. So you guys are aware of the rules by now. You have both teams. Two people are going to start the match. This is for who comes out third that is going to give that team the advantage. So we had Inner Circle, which was Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager versus the Elite Cody, Matt Jackson, and Adam Page. First, I'd like to point out that did you think it was interesting that it was Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager instead of maybe Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy?
I see the advantage of putting the established tag team in there. As far as who the third man should be, I guess they wanted to put their power guy in. Kind of makes sense. It didn't hurt the match, in my opinion.
I see. I thought it was interesting from a star level standpoint, right? And it shows that AEW doesn't necessarily care about that. They realize, hey, we've got to make stars. We just don't have stars. So they use Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager and put them in there with the elite. Instead of, Jericho's still there. He's on commentary. We got Sammy at ringside. It was just interesting that Jericho wasn't in the match to me.
I don't know. I really enjoyed him in commentary, so
Yeah,
I didn't lose anything in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about commentary in just a second. Did you want to talk about the lower third for Hangman? Because I know you're such a fan
Oh
over
man, these lower
Hangman's.
thirds. AEW does a great job on these lower thirds. Like I said, I had to watch 3 times to catch the one for Brandy because I've just become so oblivious to lower thirds over the years. So from watching Hangman's ever since they did the I don't know, say happy holidays or whatever to start his,
Mm-hmm.
it's been great. So Hangman's lower third had the double fun. The tagline was social distancing since November, which really tickled me. And I didn't catch this the first time I watched it, but watching back, instead of doing Adam Hangman Page, they called him Adam Handwash Page.
Yes, they did.
Some
Some good stuff
great
there.
change.
And then you had, Santana come out. First, let me say this about Inner Circle. Santana and Ortiz now has matching gear. They're wearing the same types of
Yeah.
pants. That is so important to me that a tag team looks unified by what they're wearing. Otherwise, I don't take them serious as a tag team. That should be beating everybody. But when they dress alike, it looks like they're on the same page, and then that would mean that they're a better team. I don't know. It's always been that way mentally for me. I could be overthinking it, but that's my thoughts, and this is
Yeah.
my podcast, so whatever.
This has been something that I think Jimmy Hart actually made a point to say back in the day, because Jimmy Hart was in the 80s and 90s, but he'd make it a point when he was dealing with a tag team to tell them, hey, you need to get new gear. You guys need to get together.
Right.
You have to be one team, not two individuals. I noticed this with the Gun Club. I watched one of their matches after seeing them in this ring, in the side of the ring tonight. So I decided to go back and watch one of their matches from a previous Dark episode, and they're both wearing the shorts with the knee pads. It's Billy Gunn's ring attire.
Right.
Austin Gunn's ring too. It's just a different color. But one of the things that really caught me and made me giggle was, on the behind you have Billy Gunn saying something like "ass man" or something.
Right.
Austin Gunn says "son of a gun."
Nice.
And that just tickled me.
That is funny.
But yeah,
That's good
ring
stuff.
gear is important with your tag teams.
I mean, that says a lot about your marketing, though. Like, that's a good marketing deal from Austin to have that on the back. Like, it
Yeah.
makes you rememberable. And wearing something that you guys can look alike also makes you, I don't think the Young Bucks would be as popular as a team if they had different gear.
No, definitely not.
So, and like Hangman Page and Omega, it works because there's tension between the two. But they don't have matching gear, and therefore I feel like there should be tension between the two. You can't even agree on what to wear to the ring.
I mean, even being tag team champions, I don't feel like this is a tag team.
Right.
I just feel like this is two guys who work really well and are able to work well together for the sake of working well, but they're still not a tag team to me.
Right. And then you had so Jericho came out for commentary. You had Sammy on the floor singing his heart out to Judas. What'd you think of Sammy's rendition of Judas by Fozzy?
I think MJF was on the spot when he said, it's a little pitchy. He hasn't had a lot of practice like MJF has had, so
yeah,
he's a little off, but it's okay. I thought it was great that they decided to carry on with the song chorus continuing after the music ends. I didn't think about that coming into this tonight. I'm really glad they did. It's another little thing.
Right. It would have been way different to not hear somebody singing it. So good for them for continuing that. So this is when I wanted to get into MJF. So MJF looked like he was having a blast tonight, and I'm so happy for him. But to me, as much fun as he was having with Sean Spears and like Warlord, and then it's when he came out to sing, he started singing with Sammy as well. I'm like, okay, well now this is getting to the point to where you're kind of taking away from you being such a dick, because now people are going to start liking you because you're kind of funny too. And that's a very dangerous territory for him to get into, because his character is supposed to be so dickish. I don't want him to be a cool heel.
I did enjoy that scene with him and Sammy both singing, and then there's Sean Spears kind of headbanging in the background eating chicken.
Right. You know.
That was hilarious.
Um so yeah, if we have to see MJF on TV a lot, I'm okay with it, but I don't want fun MJF. Did you see the pump handle fall away slam with the bridge? You talked about the fisherman suplex bridge earlier, but
Yeah, that was very impressive.
I love
It
that I'm
definitely caught my
seeing
attention.
bridges coming back. We talked,
Yes, it seems
recently.
like they've been gone forever.
Yeah, so we talked
I
about
mean, like, I
recently.
think an entire generation forgot how to do it.
Exactly. We talked. Everything comes back every 20 years or so, and it's been about 20 years because you used to
Yes.
have Dean Malenko and Lance Storm, Jericho. Those types of guys were doing the bridges, and then they just kind of disappeared. William Regal. Um,
Mhm.
you don't really have. I think technical wrestling is kind of missing as a whole during this generation. Um, as far as it really goes, you have more strong style slash brawlers, that they're technical still, but you don't have a Dean Malenko, or a name I shouldn't be allowed to say, but I'm going to say anyway because I'm not held by their standards. Chris Benoit. You don't have those types of wrestlers anymore, which I miss because that's what I grew up watching. That's what I loved. Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, seeing those kind of wrestlers. And Jericho was really big on that. But as Jericho has reinvented himself, he's always kept himself current, which is awesome on him with what is the current trend in pro wrestling. And he's moved away from that kind of technical match aspect. And I miss technical wrestling. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned things coming back. A lot of the people you mentioned are now coaches in different wrestling organizations.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see their style kind of seep in just a little bit, just from them helping out some of the younger talent figure out how to get over.
Even Dean Malenko right here in AEW. So that's very exciting. Let's talk about Jericho on commentary. Um, can I mention to every aspiring pro wrestler, if you have ever wanted to be a pro wrestler, you are a pro wrestler, you're going to be one in the future. Hold on. Turn on this episode of Dynamite and listen to Chris Jericho on commentary, because he is teaching you how to cut a promo on your opponent. And he's not even wrestling these guys right now. The fact that Jericho kept putting over everybody in the ring before he talked about how good he was himself makes himself look that much better. Because if you beat a pile of garbage, then you just beat a pile of garbage. If you beat a future Hall of Famer, that's all I'm going to say.
So one of the things that constantly comes up is, what's the job of a broadcaster? Someone in the booth. Their job is to put over the people in the ring. And I gotta say, for someone who technically doesn't have that on his resume, Chris Jericho did it a lot better than some of the guys who sit in that booth for promotions.
Well, that's because Jericho knows the business, and every position in the business, Jericho is a true professional. I have always been a great, huge Chris Jericho fan. And it doesn't change here. He shows again every week. He shows something that makes him the GOAT. And tonight
Yes.
was just him being on commentary. He was the best person doing commentary all night.
I mean, I've always felt that Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone are two of the best to ever do it, but Chris Jericho rivaled them this night,
What do you
without a
think
doubt.
of the actual match itself?
The match was pretty good. You have some amazing talent in that ring. Um, there's no doubt that the Elite is some of the best to step in the ring. They earned their name, in my opinion. And then Hager has turned out to get better each time he steps in the ring, and I would say Proud and Powerful could be on par with the Young Bucks,
Yeah, I'm
given the
getting
opportunity.
I'm getting behind Hager. Although, so Cody took the heat in the match, and he was going for a hot tag before he got cut off, and then Hager charged him, and Cody like grabbed his legs and just like shuffled backwards with Hager, all the way to the ropes, and then Hager went over the top rope. I was like, this was very awkward and didn't make any sense at all. They could have did that like not at all, and that would have made the match better. But it looked like Paige and Jackson was finally getting on the same page, right?
Very briefly, it looked like it could happen, and then the fact that Hager was outside the ring kind of came back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, so they went for the is that the Indie Taker?
Yeah, it's the indie driver.
Indie Driver, okay. So that's where Hangman Page was supposed to springboard in and do the assist on the tombstone. However, as he went to go springboard up, Hager grabbed his leg and Hangman ate the apron hard.
Yeah, they did a great job with that. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it looked great.
And then you had inside the ring Matt getting rolled up by surprise as that happened for the victory. What'd you think of the finish? Did you think Inner Circle was going to win going into this?
Uh, it makes for the better drama, in my opinion. So I was leaning towards that. They made it really questionable, which is how you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to make me doubt my decision leading into it, and they did a great job of that. And they
So
just put on a great match. One of the things I noticed was when they were cutting away to commercials, it felt like the bad spot to do that in. But then I started paying attention more and more, and I went, there hasn't been a good place to insert a commercial
right.
here.
And the fact that they do picture in picture for pretty much every commercial break, unless they're doing a promo or something, and then they'll actually cut a real. They'll actually go to it. I've been actually having to watch this on demand, the last two episodes, and I don't get the picture in picture with on demand. It does cut out to the actual commercials, but when they're doing picture in picture, you actually see that like they're still going on with the match. Very much so. Unlike other platforms, like we said earlier, there's one point during this whole thing where when you're wrestling in front of a whole crowd, they stopped the match during the commercial and they got back in when the commercial was over. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, having watched this live and then rewatched it to make sure everything was kind of fresh. During this match, for some reason, they thought, yeah, we don't really need to do the picture in picture,
Yeah.
and that was really annoying because you have Hager going for his Vader bomb or Vader drop or whatever it was, and just as soon as he gets in the air, they go, "All right, we're cutting away to commercial," and they don't do the picture in picture. So I don't. They connected. I don't know if somebody got their feet up. I don't know what happened.
Right.
And then they come back, and we're well past that. That was another thing. I was really I don't know how I felt about it. The fact there was no live audience to continue for. I don't know how I felt about them continuing the match while we couldn't watch. But it's probably the right thing to do.
Right.
I didn't see the segment from the other promotion where they basically paused the game per se. I probably wouldn't have liked that.
So I think it would hurt you more than it would help you. You might think that, hey, I can catch my breath real quick, and it's going to help the match carry on, but you're actually going to do the complete opposite, because any momentum that you just built up with the storytelling that you're doing in the ring, when you take a break like that and you just pause in the middle, you're not going to get that chemistry built back up in your head or with your opponent. So when you start back up as soon as the commercial's over, you're going to lose all of that. And I think you would see two way different matches, especially somewhere like AEW where they're delivering the goods constantly. Can you imagine the Lucha Brothers match was probably the faster paced match of the night, right?
Mhm.
Can you imagine like if they were going full speed and then they cut to a commercial and when they came back, if they tried to like recreate that magic, like you would be able to tell that, right?
And 90 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but I imagine in situations like this, that's a lifetime that's very drastically changing the scenario.
Yeah. So Jericho got on the mic after the match and he declared that he was not allowing any other fans to show up to any AEW events until he says it's okay. I thought that was hilarious and a way to poke fun at this, but also get like heel heat off of this too, right? Like you can't come to the show because I said you can't come to the show, not because of anything else. What'd you think of that line?
I liked it, but I felt like it would have carried a little more weight if he was still carrying the title.
Yeah, for sure. It doesn't. I mean, he's not in a place to make rules right now, right?
Right.
He's just in a stable. Um, so afterwards, he talked for a while. Jericho. At this point, I was like, okay, I'm kind of overhearing you talk.
Yep.
I love you a lot, but I just heard you do so well on commentary, and now this just seems to be dragging out. It's no longer fresh. You're just talking to talk to fill time at this point.
Yeah, you got that feeling. There was this point. I can't say exactly where it was, but there was this point where something went off in my head. Just a switch flipped. It said, he's just filling time now.
Right. Yeah.
And God, I hate that. It's such a bad feeling in professional wrestling as a fan.
So and let me talk about that from a wrestler standpoint for just a second. It's really weird because in wrestling you're taught to do everything super slow, and if you think you're going too slow, slow down more because you're trying to let everybody at home understand what you're doing. And there's a disconnect between a casual wrestling fan and a professional wrestler. If you're doing 5,000 moves in the ring, the casual wrestling fan is only going to see the last thing that you really did. So there's that thing, and it goes for promos too. Slow down when you're talking. Let's drag everything out, make everything mean more when you say it. And I think that's what he was doing. And then it was just like, okay, I understand what you're doing. You're doing a great job, but this is going too long. You can take a 5-minute match and make it 15-minute match. It's not going to be the same good match.
Right.
And this is his promo afterwards. If it was a minute and a half, it would have been great. But at 3 minutes, it was too long, and we lost the point.
Yep.
So then, out of nowhere, we to maybe some, it was familiar to others. You heard a distinct sound of a drone being flown, and it kind of hovers over the ring for a minute. And Matt Jackson gets on the mic. We don't really hear from Matt very often. As far as scheduled mic time. So what did you think about him being the guy that gets to introduce who was going to be the mystery partner for Team Elite?
I'd like to go back to the drone coming in.
Okay.
To your point, some knowing it. You have me and my wife watching this live on Wednesday night, and the drone noise starts happening. You start hearing the fans from the blades. And my wife has a kind of confused look on her face, and I'm doing my best not to giggle out loud because I was a huge fan of Vanguard 1 to the fact that I think at one point I was following this drone on Twitter. It's just a staple of the broken Matt Hardy.
Right.
And it immediately told me who the fifth man was, where others may have not known. I thought it was a great way for Matt to get on the mic and introduce his fifth man for Blood and Guts.
So you stated that your wife had no idea. What was her reaction like seeing
She is
who
a
it was going to
huge
be?
fan of both the Hardy Boys, so seeing one of them in AEW was a great thing to her. She's excited. I am too.
So yeah, we saw Matt Hardy, and we even saw a close up of Jericho, and he's like Matt effing Hardy, and he can't believe his face or his eyes that he's seeing Matt Hardy is going to be the fifth member of the Elite, or as I am claiming, I caught it first, being the Delete. Uh, so when they do it next week on the being the Elite, it's already my idea. They owe me royalties for that. Overall, what'd you think of the show?
Given the situation, it was a great show. I'll admit I've been tuning in a lot more to professional wrestling to see how they're handling the situation. And I think of the three different shows that I kind of follow, this was definitely the best one. Um, they handled it. They made do. The fact that they used their own talent as crowd to not have it as empty and still give you a little bit of that feel was a great idea. They did a lot of great ringside stuff. One of the things I loved was in the match between the Inner Circle and the Elite, Cody went to throw his shirt into the crowd, and he actually had people out there. Best Friends was out there, Orange
Cole Cabana.
Cassidy, Cole Cabana was out there. They were all excited to catch the shirt, and then he tosses it to Brandy.
Yeah.
That was just great comedy, in my opinion. Wrestling comedy is something that a lot of people give crap, but I think it's one of the greatest things. And the fact that AEW was still willing to add on to that, I love. Even in this time, they still just had that little perfect piece. Here's we're gonna have just a little bit more fun, even though the crowd is basically in.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing to me is they're the other platform. They're taping from their performance center where they have lots of people that nobody has ever seen on TV, and yet you don't have a crowd at all. Like you could literally just put a few of them out there in the crowd. Nobody would know who they are, but it's a restricted audience. You know,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think one of the things that makes it work for AEW is people know these talents that are around the
right?
ring. I think having talents you don't know would just be going, how come they got to go watch it?
Oh, that's a good point. So yeah, I thought it was a great show too. I do see one of your notes here. I'm not following what you mean by that note. Did you want to talk about that?
So one of the things I noticed, and this is just an effect of not having any crowd noise, one of the things you don't hear is some of the things that producers are saying. Um, at the end of this match, you have them doing the shot of Jericho, and you can audibly hear the producer counting out the show. And it was just one
Nice.
of those things that I caught because there's no crowd noise, cheering because the broken Matt Hardy is standing opposite of Jericho. That's another thing. I feel like they should have gave Matt Hardy a mic, just something to kind of enhance what he was doing a little bit. I mean, his motions were great, and anyone who's familiar knows what they are.
Right.
But for like my wife, she didn't follow any of the TNA stuff, so she doesn't know the Broken Hardy storyline or all that went down between Matt and Jeff. So it would be new to her, and it would have been good for her to hear, but there was nothing.
I think not giving him a mic and letting the shock value of people seeing him, and if you don't know, like thinking what's going on, because I think this is going to be a fresh start for that character a little bit, and that they're going to kind of explain it each week. So this was just the teaser, and I think that's all right for this first one.
Oh, something else. I want to talk about Matt Hardy just as a performer. I keep thinking about Matt Hardy from the Hardy and just how drastically different he looks by not wetting his hair and having a beard.
Right.
I mean, he looks like a completely different person. But like when he came back to the other promotion and he had the blonde streak and his hair was wet and it wasn't all poofy and he was clean shaven, it was just I forgot that that's the same person. And
Right.
I'm really impressed with his ability to change his appearance drastically with his character.
Yeah. Matt Hardy has been another one like Jericho. Matt Hardy has stayed relevant because Matt Hardy wanted to stay relevant. Otherwise, I mean, for so many years, he was just the other Hardy boy,
Right.
where really it was his brain doing everything for the matches and stuff, making Jeff look great. If you ever read the book, Matt kind of goes into it a little bit, and that's a great read as well. The Hardy Boys book. If you're, it's really I only read wrestling documentaries. It's really weird, but that was a great book to read. But Matt Hardy's always kind of been the brain behind those two, and Jeff Hardy's always been the creative guy. Obviously, you can see that just by looking at them. That's the two types of people that they are. They're not twins. They're completely different people. And Jeff looks like the artist, where Matt looks like the business guy.
Yeah,
Except when he's like broken.
it's very apparent which one does which because you have Jeff Hardy who's still wrestling. Here we are 20 years into watching him wrestle. And even when he was Jeff Hardy version 2.0, it was still the same appearance of Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy has not drastically changed in 20 years.
No, I mean
Or
he started wearing face paint. It's
yeah,
just like, oh, okay. And I think at first he only painted. At first he only did glow in the dark paint. So it was only on him when he came out for his entrance.
right.
And then he started doing half his face, and then eventually he started doing his full face, and it's just like, whatever. You're not changing at all. And I think it's important to evolve. Otherwise, fans do get stale. Jericho's come up with new finishers to use, and all of his different stages, and that's kept him fresh as well. People get tired of seeing the same moves. They lose their edge, especially once people start kicking out of it all the time. How many times? How many? This really irritates me because I use it as a finisher. But how many times do you see a Ace Crusher, or you might know that better known as the RKO, the Diamond Cutter? But the move originally was called the Ace Crusher. How many times do you see that being done as a regular move in a match right now?
One of my favorite moves was by one of the, I'm not going to say worst talents, but definitely wasn't the best, was the Blockbuster by Buff Bagwell. I love that move. It looked very good, and now it's just something that happens in the middle of the match, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit. So I kind of understand that.
So the Buff Blockbuster was a flipping neck breaker. Buff Bagwell would stand on the middle rope and jump over his opponent and catch his opponent on the way down with just a regular neck breaker. It is literally a regular move, but because he jumped off the ropes and did a flip, it looked so much better.
Yes.
And it was exciting to watch. But you're right, now everybody's doing it, and you can't see somebody. It makes it hard because then you have some wrestlers, Hangman Page, for example, right? You have him doing a front flip with a lariat, and because he flips with it, it looks cool and it looks different. But the old school, you would have just Bradshaw knocking somebody out with a clothesline from hell. But now you have regular clotheslines that people are kicking out of, and I understand that it's also the person who does it. Maybe they're stronger. Maybe it's
Yep.
Lex Luger and he has bionic forearms.
I I love the statement when someone asked, "What's the difference between a lariat and a clothesline?" and the answer was, "Go ask JBL,
Right.
and he'll show you."
Yeah.
I
And
always love that.
since we're talking about clotheslines, I'm going to bring up a pet peeve that I'm seeing a lot of in AEW. I'm seeing a lot of people clothesline people, and when they're coming through for the clothesline, they're like hitting and then going up with their arm, or they're like just letting their arm bounce off of their opponent's chest instead of driving through the clothesline. Quit doing that. All right, drive your arm through the guy because it looks like poop when you just like let your arm pop out of them.
I, I want to say congratulations. You managed to get a Ty Ruins wrestling in, not even into it. I haven't noticed that. I always kind of took it as they'll come through and they'll go up, to kind of give the reason of why their opponent is doing this flip after being clotheslined. That's always how I've sold it in my head, but now you've ruined that for me. Thank you.
You're welcome. And sometimes, so you're right though. Sometimes people flip on the clothesline, and in that case, you don't want to drive through because you could break their neck. But like Chuck Taylor, every time he does a clothesline, you'll see him just keep his arm up, and Jungle Boy as well. It's the little things, drive through that clothesline when you hit your opponent. Moving on. Next week we have a few match announcements. We've got Luchasaurus versus Wardlow in a lumberjack match, which kind of makes sense in a way, and also doesn't make sense. So we already had all of the talent around the ring for this week, sitting in the crowd. Now next week you're going to give them all belts and let them hit Luchasaurus and Wardlow? Like, is that what we're doing?
I mean, everybody needs a payday.
Yeah. So what do you think of the actual matchup, Luchasaurus versus Wardlow?
So the first thing I want to say is, at the time they announced this, they didn't know if March 25th was going to be an actual date where they did a Dynamite episode. So I was really glad that the one they announced on the screen right now actually had the date on it, confirming that, because with Luchasaurus versus Wardlow, it was just next Dynamite.
Right.
There was no confirmation of date or anything.
Right.
So I'm glad to hear that there's going to be another episode for us to cover next week. It's always bad to take a break in the middle of a podcast. But yeah, that's one of the two guys I wanted to see Luchasaurus get in the ring with. I wanted to see Luchasaurus get in the ring with Wardlow, and I wanted to see him get in the ring with Jake Hager. I feel like these are two big guys, and Luchasaurus has always put on a good match in the tag teams. I've wanted to see him do solo. To see him do solo with someone about his size makes it all the more interesting.
And it's exciting because this is only Wardlow's second match in AEW. Maybe his third, but he hasn't.
I think second.
I just remember the cage match, and he's been involved. He was involved in the whiplashing of Cody, who we see on the screen now. And it seems like we've seen a lot more of him, but we really haven't seen him in action a lot, which is good in my opinion, because he's a bodyguard. He should just be there protecting, MJF. Don't put him in the ring. But I've also seen how talented this guy is, and to not have him in the ring is a waste of talent because he's not out there performing. But at the same time, you gotta realize, like, this, you hired him for this job. Let him just do that job. Like, I think the other platform does a bad job of hiring people to do things that they're not going to do. Like, hey, you looked really good doing this on the indies. We want you to be a truck driver when you come in over here. What?
Yes.
So
they have a very bad issue where they don't allow things that they didn't create. Right. Everything has to be their creation.
So since he's in this manager role, this bodyguard role, I would much rather, I know you're paying him a lot of money just to stand behind MJF. That's money well spent at this time, because it's believable.
It looks good doing it.
Yeah.
And that alone is worth it.
It looks really believable. And if you keep putting him in matches, I think it's going to lose some of that.
Definitely.
And speaking of Luchasaurus, so I was watching his hot tag tonight, and I realized something. And if he was not Luchasaurus, if he didn't have a mask on, if he looked just like, I don't know, say Wardlow, right? If Wardlow was out there throwing kicks and doing suicide dives, it wouldn't be as cool. You'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Not for me. With his size, I mean, not the fact of his character, but just his size. So I fully intend to do this. I haven't done it yet. I went and looked. Luchasaurus is one of those guys who went through the other major brand before he got to AEW. And I didn't watch any of his matches, but I plan to go back. I feel like anyone going back to Paul White. Paul White was able to do awesome things off the top rope. But they told him never do that because you're a big guy. Big guys don't do that. Um, Luchasaurus has the proper body build that even at his height, I'd still, even without the mask and the gimmick, I would still be thoroughly impressed and entertained with him doing the moves he does.
Agree to disagree. I think the
Yeah.
mask is everything in this
Oh,
situation.
I'm not saying it does not enhance the situation. It makes everything better, but I don't think it would be a game changer if he didn't have
Hopefully they never book a match like in WCW where the loser leaves their or loses their mask, and hopefully we don't ever have to have this conversation again to see who was right.
it.
Because you're doing it right, AEW. Don't change it, okay? So the next match we got was we're gonna see Lucha Brothers versus Best Friends in a parking lot fight. We talked about it a little bit earlier. So this is now week 3 of Best Friends versus Lucha Brothers. You're not excited, right?
I am not. I mean, I'm glad they found something different to do, but I'm not excited.
And then, so we've already got 2 gimmick matches for the next Dynamite. That we only get about 4 to 5 matches per Dynamite, and you're already taking half of those and hiding it behind something else. I'm not a fan of. I think Luchasaurus versus Wardlow just in a singles match would have been good enough.
Right. I think they're wasting a match by just straight into a lumberjack match.
Yeah.
I think they could have went in and had this match and have something happen that made it want to have a rematch and then make it a lumberjack match. But yeah, definitely wasting talent.
I think, and the reason they're doing this is because, go ahead and tell you guys this. Blood and Guts has been postponed. It was supposed to be on the 25th edition of Dynamite. However, they are pushing this match back due to, the coronavirus going around, COVID-19, be it whatever it is. They feel like this isn't the right atmosphere for this type of match. And as Jericho also pointed out, you have to have less than 10 people during gathering. With the ref, that's 11, and plus camera people and the doctor being at ringside to make sure nothing happens to him. You're over that 10. What do you think of their decision to postpone this match?
I am not upset with it at all. I think this match is enhanced by a large crowd. This is a pay-per-view style event that they're doing on Dynamite, so I'm willing to have them put it off to give it the proper environment that it needs.
I completely agreed. The environment needs to be right for this kind of match, and not having a crowd would have sucked all of the drama away from whatever they're planning on doing in this match.
I mean, hearing a producer count down each time someone needs to go into the ring is really going to suck it out of me. So I'm really glad we're going to have some crowd noise.
So instead of that, we are going to see the American Nightmare Cody facing one-on-one versus Jimmy Havoc. Are you a fan of Jimmy Havoc, and how much have you watched of him?
I've watched most of his matches in AEW. I'm not a huge fan, but it's not really like he did something wrong or anything. I take that back. AEW let him do a promo and he talked on the mic, and that was probably the worst decision they made. And I've only seen that one promo, and I don't think I've seen any since. So his voice does not fit his character, in my opinion. So I would continue with him just doing what he's doing. Maybe keep the mask on anytime you're expecting him to talk. He's a great wrestler. Very intense. Really does some of the hardcore stuff very well. I really love the stuff he's done with staple guns, especially with Joey Janela. But yeah, it's not something I particularly go. I'm ready for a Jimmy Havoc match.
I think they're missing the matchup here. I think it would have been better to put oh, why is his name Darby Allen versus Jimmy Havoc. That would have been an interesting
Yeah,
matchup.
that would have been better. I thought you were gonna
Um,
go with Cody, and I'm like, they've done that like 3 times already.
no. Jimmy Havoc versus Darby Allen, I think, would have been the
Yeah,
better match to advertise here. I've got no need to see Cody versus Jimmy Havoc, and already just looking at this picture, it's like, well, I know who's winning. How do you do it any other way unless there's outside interference?
I don't know.
This is
Maybe.
not look like a match that's gonna be solid. I'm not excited about this match. The other two matches, I besides throwing a lumberjack match already and ruining that first matchup between those guys just to do it because you want to give the fans some kind of gimmick match because they were expecting a big cage match. Wrong reason. I think everybody, for the most part, except for some douchebags on Twitter, understand what's going on in the world right now, and they don't expect you to go all out. I mean, I wouldn't want to see 10 guys performing in a cage match anyway with no crowd there because, like, when you're wrestling, the crowd is what keeps your adrenaline up and running to make the things you're doing not hurt. You want us to put our bodies on the line in front of nobody in a cage, and if it's the same cage, a very sketchy cage, and die in front of nobody? No, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, if there was ever a question of how important the crowd noise is, I think these past couple of weeks we've answered that.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on?
I These are very interesting times in professional wrestling, and I am looking forward every week to seeing how they keep it going. I just can't imagine how difficult it is to have to go into your locker room and say, "Look, guys, we're another week of nobody out there, but we still got to do this show," and they're doing it.
So
I'm impressed.
you
I have enjoyed, but
I was going to ask you. So you saw like the NBA cancel their season. You've seen some other big events being canceled. Do you think that this is the way to go for what they're trying to do, or do you think we just put pause on everything? Like, I can't believe they just wasted an entire NBA season.
you know, those sports are really dependent on ticket sales and people showing up and buying things. So I understand them canceling. Um, Professional wrestling has become very much so carried by television. So them carrying on the television event despite having fans or not makes sense to me.
I disagree. I
Like,
mean, I think that the arenas they need a lot of that money to make
yeah,
sure
yeah,
that
that's why we've seen the movement of venue. Like
right.
they're not still going to these places and doing it. They're doing it from basically places they own. Um, WWE doing it from the Performance Center and AEW doing it in Jacksonville.
So do you
So
think the
that's
right move
obvious.
for NBA would have been to like rent out a rec center and say, "All right, guys, everybody's games are going to be played at this rec center," and bring in a skeleton production crew and just kept it going. And at the same
No,
time,
because again for these live sports, actual sports, not sports entertainment. Um, I think it's very important to have the crowd there because that funds your ability to pay the players, to pay the crew that's handling everything. Um, we're a member of the Southern Professional Hockey League, our local, and because we had to cancel our season, the entire um, the league season, there is a good possibility we could lose a team or two because they're not able to get the money out of those games that they didn't play.
yeah, I guess that would
So
make
I
sense.
understand it for sports, but like I said, for professional wrestling, your TV deals are what carries the most weight on money. The house payoff's nice, but that's more like icing on the cake rather than the cake itself.
Okay. What else? What else stood out to you?
The announcers, everyone in all the promotions seemed more relaxed and more like they're just going out there to have fun again, rather than doing the specific job because they have to do this job. None of them felt like if they don't get it right, they're going to get into trouble. And I really enjoy. It's one of the things I already enjoyed about it because you'll hear Tony and Jim promote their own stuff, just laughing. you will not get through an episode without hearing about something Conrad's doing. It's
Right.
just not possible in AEW.
Uh,
But it's just much more relaxed,
do you think
this episode, in my
that
opinion.
like so we talked about the sports, we talked about NBA players, and we've learned now that members of teams have had it as well, and not showing symptoms, but was affected by the coronavirus. How dangerous do you think it is to continue running these shows from a wrestling standpoint, and these wrestlers being around each other? I'm sure, and everybody's been told, if you don't want to come, don't come. No, nobody's
Right.
gonna look at you different. We get it. We understand. And if you're sick, definitely don't come.
Right.
But what happens when somebody in either show gets diagnosed with it, and then that news comes out? What is that going to do for AEW or the other platform if that is national news? Because they made this decision to continue the show, which is something that is brave, and I think that people need. But you also have like the Tonight Show. You have Jimmy Fallon doing the
Right.
Tonight Show from his kids' playroom. So what's your take on that?
They appear to be managing it the best they can. I'm sure they're they're doing like people are doing with traveling and taking your temperature before you go through the door. Um, I assume that they're testing. My assumption would be they test before every show just to see where everybody is. But I imagine they're taking as much precaution as they can and still do what they need to do, because they feel like they have a responsibility with everyone else basically being stuck at home, that they need to entertain you. A lot of entertainment has gone away this year over this. Um, it kind of puts a lot more pressure on them. I understand the decision. I hope they're doing the best they can to prevent any issues, but I really applaud their effort.
So if something does come out, do you think that that hurts them?
I'm not sure. I think people who understand what the goal was won't have an issue with it, but there are going to be, like you mentioned earlier, people have a problem with Blood and Guts being postponed, uh, giving
Eh,
them crap when they find out that
you also have people that just kind of give wrestling the side eye anyway, from a national news level, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
where we would really see it. These people allowed these people to keep wrestling, and putting a bad taste on the wrestling business has always been fun for the media. And
Yeah,
I could see them spinning this as well, and really hurting the growth that AEW has got so far. And that's scary to me, to see something, because their intention is gold right here, to continue doing this for the fans, but it could also bite them in the butt, and I hope it doesn't.
yeah. With them being sub a million viewers, I'm not sure that it would really hurt them drastically, because the people who are watching love wrestling. They're not watching because they said, "Oh, it's Wednesday night, nothing else is on."
Right.
Um, so I'm not sure how much it would hurt the numbers. It could hurt the brand a little bit, but I don't think they'd see like a drastic downturn in viewership. I think they're really close to hitting that million mark, which seems to be important to everyone right now. But yeah, I don't think it would really hurt their numbers.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing the show with me again this week. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me on all things red_fox15. I'm not as active on, say, like Instagram as I am on Twitter, but best places to find me are Twitter and Twitch, red_fox15.
And you stream on Twitch every Wednesday night after Dynamite, correct?
That is correct.
And
Normally about 9:30 Central Time.
awesome. I'm TIE Fighter X1 across the board as well. Make sure to come check me out on Twitch Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thanks so much for tuning into another episode of the Tie Up. I'm TIE Fighter X1.
I'm Red Fox 15.
Have a great night.